Hey, Sessy, it turns out the Steelers are still alive. Wait, were they ever really dead?
Not when you face a dead fish.
Ah, good point. Also, we bring back the power rankings where we have successfully deduced there are only 14 good teams in the NFL. Find out if your favorite team is one of them. It is time to heed the call. Hey, welcome to Heed the Call, an NFL podcast. Monday night show. Only a couple of these left as the regular season winds down. Can you believe it? Hot damn. Feels like week 1 was just yesterday. And now week 15 is in the books following a 28-15 victory for the Pittsburgh Steelers over the fugazi-ass Miami Dolphins. Dan Hanzus here with Marc Sessler, Justin Graver on the ones and twos. We're going to dig into this final game of the week, Mark, and we're going to then hit some news, and then we're going to end, as we customarily do, with the power rankings. So it's going to be another fun hour with the boys. How you doing, pal?
I'm good. The power rankings at this point, I feel like, what would be the difference between me and a second or third grade child conducting the list? It feels like things have become... Well, it's a reflection of the weeks that we're going through these last 3 weeks. Just wild.
Way to sell it.
Well, no, I think it's unpredictable. It's unpredictable, the nature of it. So you got to stick around.
Here's the thing, Mark. And I thought we were past this because it is week 15. We are trying to position our show and our brand, Heed the Call, as the definitive power rankings, the power rankings of record. Mm-hmm. And then I have Sessler at the 90-second mark saying he has no idea what he's doing.
No,
you understand how that's a little disconnect from the what we're trying to accomplish as a brand, right?
That's how you took it. I was showcasing
the number one according to Dan Hanzus power rankings.
Thank
today.
you, Paul Rudd.
There's a little bit of disdain in his voice in that clip.
You hear the disdain in my voice?
Well, yeah, I can. But
right
see,
now?
I am pointing to the purity of a young person who comes at it with fresh eyes, not bias, but simply a desire to get it right. And that's where I'm coming from. When you're young and you're like, I want to achieve, and that's how I do my power rankings, Dan.
As a young person?
As a me now.
So we're in deep fiction then.
Well, it can be both areas could be accurate.
I like your little lumberjack jacket
yeah, it's my
today.
Forest coat.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's hot too. I might have to take it off mid-show because I didn't realize
Take it off, buddy. Hey, by the way, why don't we start this way? Why don't we start this way? Because you locked up the Steelers. You promised me, Dog, on the Sunday night show that if the Steelers locked and you got the W and you were the only one to win in our blind lock challenge in week 15, you would do the Seven Nation Army celebration dance. So hit it.
Well, one question. Do you want me to do it with Connor when we have Connor on our show, or do you want me to do it now?
No, Connor's a loser. Just like I'm a loser and Justin was a loser. You're the only winner. That's the whole thing.
Hey, hey, hey. How about that? I just said it's hot. It's a smothering jacket, and I've just done exercise in it. So, but there you go. They haven't lost a home Monday night game, as they mentioned tonight on the broadcast, since Chuck Noll was the coach in 1991. So I felt good about this.
Well, all right, let's get into it. Give me some music. Let's talk about this game. Aaron Rodgers, I mean, he's a good fit in Pittsburgh. It's kind of annoying. It feels like he was never on the Jets. Doesn't it feel that way?
Well, he certainly wasn't for the first season, but yeah.
He wasn't there for the first season. The second season was a wipeout for multiple reasons. But now here he is at 42 years old, just playing well. Just not great. He's not the old Aaron Rodgers, but he's not old Aaron Rodgers either. He's just a steady presence for the Steelers. And that's one of the driving reasons why they are 8-6 and alone in first place in the AFC North, back from the dead, as it were. And don't get me started on that. We'll get into that. But he throws for 224 and 2 touchdowns. The Pittsburgh defense absolutely stifles a fairly pathetic Dolphins attack in this game. The yardage and everything looks is a little misleading because the Dolphins put up 2 touchdowns and a bunch of yards in the fourth quarter when the game was already done and gone. But yeah, Pittsburgh beat them in every way in this game. Their 23rd straight win at home on NFL's Monday Night Showcase, which is crazy. And in the process, eliminate the Dolphins from the AFC playoff chase. And I did give Connor the opportunity to maybe send a video message about the Dolphins, the team, Mark, that he had been annoyingly pumping up, and you got in on it too. And again,
not with my heart and soul, but
I know,
but you did too.
You were saying like, "Oh, I need the Dolphins and Mike McDaniel. I really am I'm rooting for him." It's like, no, this Dolphins team, get out of here, man. Get the hell out of here with the performance like that. Connor said he was busy with his SI power rankings, which, kind of feels like a little bit of an excuse, but I'm sure he is busy. But we won't hear from Connor tonight. But the story, obviously, is the Steelers, who a couple of weeks back were talking about the end of the Mike Tomlin era and the fire Tomlin chance. And now here they are, 8-6, and in the driver's seat in the AFC North.
Yeah, and they create a third quarter for the Dolphins offense that I think they had negative 20 yards, the worst output by a Mike McDaniel offense. Obviously, how many more could be worse than that of his tenure? They fell apart tonight. The Steelers defense did the job. And then it's just like Aaron Rodgers throws 27 passes with 4 incompletions. Like, they kind of chug along this offense. They're not special. They're not flashy to watch. They're not a run and shoot type operation. But Arthur Smith is using like 6 offensive linemen, like multiple tight ends. Like, you've got Jonnu Smith running in for a touchdown. Marcus Valdes-Scantling is signed to the roster this morning and has a 19-yard touchdown from Rodgers, which feels kind of like you're getting everything the Steelers want and everything Aaron Rodgers wants all mixed into one. Like, it's not the most exciting team on the planet, but like, you trust them to get it done in a situation at home tonight. And they ended the Dolphins. You're right. They basically ended any notion we had of Miami being anything other than a pleasure cruise of the mind, and one that's about to crash into an iceberg.
I mean, geez. Again, Dolphins were never a team to be taken seriously. I could say that now because I was saying it 3 weeks ago. It was all fake. Yeah,
well, they won 4 in a row or whatever. It's like they kind of climbed back into this ridiculous mess.
Yeah, but it's like, again, they're not anything like the Patriots. That's not fair to the Patriots. But I don't care when average teams beat terrible teams. It doesn't teach me anything about a team. Just like we were talking about the Eagles, the bottom of their schedule this season, they're playing some of the worst teams in the league, so they're going to end up hot, quote unquote, with these wins. But like, what does it tell you when you beat the Commanders, the Saints, and the Jets, as the Dolphins did? They did, and to their credit, they did beat the Bills. They caught the Bills on a really bad day, I guess, for Buffalo, looking back on it. But at the same time, that was a great win. That was a high water mark. But the last 3 games of this 4-game winning streak were arguably against the 3 worst teams in football, or 3 of the worst 4 teams in football. And then here you go to Pittsburgh, and we're having the same conversation again about the Dolphins. Can they travel in cold weather and put together a performance? And at least on the defensive side of the ball, they did. They were fighting in the first half. It was a low-scoring first half. They were going punch for punch. But when they needed Tua and the offense to make plays in the third quarter, once Pittsburgh's offense started to find itself, it was just nowhere to be seen. And I guess I want to get into that side of the conversation I'll start with what I thought was the most interesting thing in a pretty boring game, which was Joe Buck and Troy Aikman being very, very outspoken about what is Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins offense doing. They're down 3 scores, and they are taking their time in the fourth quarter, in and out of the huddle. They're taking the play clock down. They seem to have no urgency or need to get back in the game. And then you hear this from the ESPN team.
The Dolphins, after getting the touchdown, did not declare for and tried to get an onside kick.
No, and they didn't go hurry up either. So I'm not too surprised. I think the Dolphins, after a 1-6 start and winning 5 of 6, 4 in a row, I think they've kind of run out of gas.
And there are plenty of bad teams, Mark, in the NFL. But I don't think any team is in more dire need of a complete reboot of their identity than the Dolphins. And I say that as somebody, I admire Mike McDaniel as being a personality and a unique figure. He will land on his feet elsewhere, but don't even think about running this thing back with the head coach or the quarterback, because the whole operation just seems so left-footed. It's 2 left feet, and they can't win big games, and it's like at a certain point you got to turn the page. I hope, if I'm a Dolphins fan, I'm thinking to myself, if anything came out of this game, it will hopefully dismiss the notion that they actually have the pieces in the building to get this thing back on track. You got to blow it up.
I think tonight, it's not that wasn't true before, but tonight was a rubber stamp on that. And I agree with you. I think Mike McDaniel is a truly talented play designer and schemer, and he will work again. And he has done good things with the Dolphins. Like the experience feels over, right? And sometimes just change needs to occur, and they don't have a GM. So you've got to figure out at some point, you're going to hire a GM, and you can't force a GM to stick with all of this. And that goes for the coach and the quarterback. I think that the problem is we've come to the end of the Tua experience. I know a couple Dolphins fans, they are writing me just saying and I have my own thoughts too, but it's like, this thing he's regressing. And tonight was a perfect example. This was a game where you could have manageably worked the Dolphins back. They did late, but we knew that was not going to happen. And he was pristine when he was better before, and the turnovers were not a factor. The turnovers are, when you add that to all of this, they're a non-functioning offense. They didn't cross 100 yards till the fourth quarter. And whatever Mike McDaniels was looking to do, it's kind of gone away. And I think you're right that it's better to dissemble this, start over, and rebuild this team.
Yeah, Tua is yet to win a game in which the temperatures drop below 40 degrees. It's a non-starter in the NFL. That's not how. And
it's annoying that we still have to deal with that stat, right?
Right, and that's why the Dolphins need to, move on, and they got to cut ties there and find a way to do it. And you have Devon Achane, who's having a great year. You're up against the Steelers defense. They have one of the worst run defenses in Steelers history, historically bad certain weeks this season. They can't run the football. And then, to Connor's point, he's been bringing it up. They had been changing their offense, taking things off Tua's plate and leaning more on the run and getting away from the things that Tua has been unable to do in the last year or two. And that's fine until you all of a sudden down multiple scores in the third quarter and you got to start throwing it. And Tua's doing that thing where he's just hanging around, floating around, taking sacks, throwing short over and over and over again. There's just nothing. There's just nothing there. I mean, even in the last couple of minutes, and I don't want to dwell on it, but it was a little bit of a weird game. And I wasn't alone because Aikman couldn't get off it either. Like, even in the last 2 minutes, they're not going out of bounds. They are throwing short over the middle and just taking their time. It's just like, what universe? You're literally eliminated from the playoffs if you don't pull off a miracle comeback. At least show us that you're trying. It felt like you're just trying to get out of the cold. But that's enough on the Dolphins. Let's focus on the Steelers. That without TJ Watt, who had that collapsed lung from that unfortunate incident when he was getting treatment, he was out of this game. The fact that they were able to play a very good game on defense and then put together all those scoring drives with Rodgers. Yeah, they're set up well. And I don't know, do you like them in the AFC North? You think they're the favorite here?
Well, they beat the Ravens. I think they're built to beat the Ravens. I think any one of these teams in the AFC North, in theory, are built to beat either the Steelers or Ravens, depending on where you sit. Yes, I do. I really think that Pittsburgh at home against anyone in this division, obviously two of the teams, and Baltimore will win. And I think they're the better team by a bit. Smidgen.
You're a little higher on them than I am.
Well, I'm not high on them though, because I think they could win the division with 8 wins. So I'm not high on them, but
they look good today.
I'm not high on the Ravens either.
They look good today, but the Ravens, the problem for the Ravens, they're a full game back, and they get the Patriots next week, then the Packers in Green Bay. So they're home Patriots at Green Bay and then at Pittsburgh to close the season. So to get to Week 18 with that game, meaning, you know, for all the marbles in the AFC North, they have to keep their head above water, and they have to pick up. They have to make sure they don't fall behind, I should say, another game here. They fall behind 2, obviously, going into Week 18. It doesn't matter what happens in that last game of the season. So that is their challenge.
And that Steelers game is Pittsburgh won in Baltimore. Now that game is in Pittsburgh in the final week of the season. You know it's going to come down to that, right? And
yeah, it has a very if things end up where they're separated by one game going into that makes a lot of sense as the Sunday night primetime game to end the regular season. Right. It will be a strong option. So we'll see how everything shakes out in the AFC North. But yeah, pretty crazy that the Steelers are where they are now. Compared to the conversations that we were having and everyone else, it all feels a little melodramatic now, and that's the NFL for you. We got sucked up into it, but it's also like Steelers fans have been going nuts about Mike Tomlin now for a couple of years, and it seemed like it was reaching a breaking point. But here's the thing about the NFL. Don't think that's now gone, because things can turn again in a couple of weeks. And I think Tomlin's probably going to be safe once again, but he seems to have ducked the worst of it.
You know I'm a degenerate.
Last thing on this game, loved Troy and Joe just goofing around in the fourth quarter. The game was giving them no juice. They knew people were fleeing their televisions by the millions in the fourth quarter when it was 28-3 or whatever it was, and they just start messing around. Aikman genuinely childlike at one point talking about the Dolphins running back.
I do like this A-Chan. Man, you know what I really wish, though? I wish when he first came into the league, everybody was calling him A-Chain, and then he corrected him and said, no, it's A-Chan. But I want him to be A-Chain. That's got a better sound to it, Devon A-Chain. You know, but no, I mean, since we're killing time here, I mean, let's get into the important things.
Troy, you do know we're on the air, right? We're live.
That's the old, like, stretch. Like, you know, you got a lot. That's when it becomes tough to be a broadcaster, Justin.
There's no better no smoother broadcaster than Joe Buck. And even Joe's like, I'll go for that.
I think I'm going to start calling you Dane because it sounds cooler. Like, this is someone's name we're talking about. You can't just change it. What do you?
Yeah. And the one thing I appreciate, the little kind of inside baseball of it all, is later in the telecast, in the final minute or two, they cut back to someone had made a pretty funny poster in the crowd of Aikman as Santa and Buck as Rudolph. And then underneath it, when they came back and showed it the second time, they made a point to call him Troy Aikchan or Aikchain. So obviously that whole little back and forth gave the truck a bit of a kick too. So
can you imagine going to the mall with a child or just with yourself, and like the Santa Claus there at the mall is Troy Aikman? That's like one of the more attractive Santas you'd stumble across.
It's like, I know those bloodshot eyes.
Not where I was coming from, but
yeah. All right, let's take a break and we will get caught up on some news. Stay right there.
Winter weather changes fast, cold, wet, and windy, sometimes all in one shift. And when you're working through all of that, your gear can't be an afterthought. True Work is performance workwear built like it matters, because it does, Dan.
That's right, Mark. True Work was founded by a trade professional who was tired of wet, heavy, outdated gear slowing him down. So he set out to make workwear that actually supports the people doing the real work out there. Everything they make is designed with advanced performance fabrics for lasting comfort, all-day mobility, and year-round job site protection, no matter what the weather decides to do.
And the thing I love is that True Work tests every single piece on an actual job site with real trade pros. So when conditions change on you halfway through the day, you're still ready. It's why they have over 50,000 five-star reviews from pros in every trade and every climate. I've been wearing the M3 Whoopee hoodie, and it's quickly become a staple. Wind-resistant, insulated, and honestly just crazy comfortable. It's the perfect layer when the day can't make up its mind. We wear True Work, and you should too.
And here's a little admission. Mark and I aren't out there in the fields and on construction sites and in harsh conditions when we do the podcast. These hands are soft. However, True Work looks great, and we wear it, and it makes us look very masculine, and that works for us too. Upgrade your day with workwear built like it matters. Get 15% off your first order at truework.com with the code HTC. That's TRUEWERK.com. You know, Mark, you know how some people have a going out wardrobe? Mine is mostly activewear. That's true. I work out in it, I run errands in it, I travel in it, you name it, and lately it's been all Fabletics.
Yep, me too, Dan. Personally, I started with their high-waisted leggings and a cropped hoodie, and honestly, I didn't expect to love them as much as I do. The leggings don't roll down even during a workout, and the fabric feels way more premium than what I paid for.
Wow, the high-waisted leggings you went with, Mark.
Yeah, yeah.
And the best part, when I signed up as a new VIP, I got 80% off everything, which already felt like a steal. But the quality really surprised me. These pieces feel like, they feel like the kind of high-end activewear that you'd pay $200 for, but at a fraction of the price. And the joggers, they actually keep their shape after a full day of errands or even a long flight. I like wearing the joggers on a long flight. Some people are like, put a suit on. As I calm down, I'm about comfort. It also helps knowing that Fabletics has a community of over 2 million VIP members and more than 100 retail stores.
You are about comfort. It's one of those brands that, once you try it, you get it. The comfort, the fit, the value. Honestly, I didn't realize how much I'd wear Fabletics until I tried it. Now it's basically my everyday gear.
Fabletics already has amazing deals, but right now they're running their biggest sale of the year on top of that. Perfect timing with the holidays. And I've got an exclusive offer just for you, 80% off everything when you sign up as a VIP.
Head to fabletics.com/HTC and sign up as a VIP to get 80% off everything. That's right, this is only available through our link, so go to fabletics.com/HTC to sign up as a VIP and get 80% off. That's fabletics.com/HTC.
All right, we are back. Let's do some news.
Give the Travion runs into the right. Open start. He accelerates past the 40, 35-30, 25-20. Chased by a pair of Bills. Who won't catch it? Touchdown, Patriots!
If you're a Buffalo Bills fan right now, what are you thinking? Your window is closed. There's a new AFC East champ, and they wear all blue here today.
Curse them.
That is sentient Mountain Berry Blast Powerade bottle. Scott Zolak in the they still pay him. Like, he still works for the Patriots. I guess, he certainly sounds like a Patriots employee. But so with the mother of all jinxes in the second quarter, carving into the tombstone of the Buffalo Bills that their window had closed, and we know how that all turned out. I have to say, that made my Monday. Mondays aren't always the best day of the week, Mark. It's the start of another grind. But then when I heard that Mountain Berry Blast had f***ed up once again, it just filled me with so much holiday cheer that I live for it, buddy. I live for it.
He's got no edit button. We get that, and and lacks a self-control on the microphone that I think is probably, to Patriots fans, in moments of valor, endearing. So I get it. He is a meathead. I will mention to you that there is someone else who got a little over his skis verbally, and said essentially the same thing over our text thread, which was Justin. When it was 21-0, Justin's like, game over, or something like that. I was like, I know you've jinxed him. That's when I got on my rant, like, this thing is going to overtime. The Bills are winning this. Justin did one of his little, like, I'm rambunctious, and here I go with the text, and then bang.
I think I said bye-bye Bills.
Yeah, whatever words you used, it was the same kind of jinx. I knew at that point, Dan, that Buffalo was going to pull this
out. The
old
old Graver jinx. Yeah, let's see. What would be Graver's Powerade flavor? Sour cherry, mixed berry.
No, it gotta be like, what's the like icy blue one?
Yeah, I just said blue, like the one like Arctic Blast or something.
That's Mountain Berry Blast. No, that's Zolak. You can't have that.
Arctic Blast.
That's Gatorade. We got to get our flavored energy drink straight. We'll work on that. We'll get back to the audience. Sound off in the chat. What is Justin? What flavor
I only
is he?
drink blue or red Powerade if I had the option of any color.
Then you're fruit punch.
I'll take
your fruit punch.
Yeah.
I am.
Okay. Thousands of people were asking that question, so that's been answered.
All right. Patrick Mahomes had surgery today. It was for an ACL tear. Also, he tore his LCL, which is, Mark, you don't know this, but the LCL, I believe, is the side ligament.
Thank you.
The left to right one that controls stability from that area of the knee structure.
Thank you, Dr. Phil.
Yeah, well, no, not Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil wasn't a orthopedic surgeon.
Well, I think a doctor could do anything that a doctor would do.
Okay. All right, let's get Mark to hit the books a little bit on doctors and the different roles they fill in society. Anyway, here is Andy Reid talking about the surgery and the rehab for the great Mahomes.
He'll attack it, and he just like he does everything else. There have been pretty good quarterbacks that have had the same injuries, and they've done pretty well after they came back. So he'll get after it, and he's got good people
Andy to
here to
Mexico,
rehab
man.
him, and he'll be right on top of all that. I've had a good visit with him a couple different times, so he's in a good place. He always feels like he let people down, but then he comes back and he's ready for the challenge ahead.
Jesus. Okay.
Which is what's real right now. He's just got to get through surgery wherever it might be.
Are you punking us right now, Justin? What's happening?
And then move on from there.
Okay, great.
He might need to get through surgery wherever it might be.
Let's see. Rap Sheet reported Mahomes also tore his LCL, blah, 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 blah. While that can complicate recovery, it doesn't necessarily extend his rehab longer than 9 months or so. But still, I mean, it's 9 months. You do the math. That takes you into August. I would expect him to be ready for week 1. But we'll see, if he is the Mahomes that he's always been at the beginning of the season. It might be a situation where he needs some time, but let's stick a pin in that because we got Pete Sweeney on that side of things coming up on Wednesday's End Around show. In other news, we have some more firings. The Jets part ways with Steve Wilks, the defensive coordinator. You've heard me on the show the last couple of weeks pointing out that Wilks has been a deep disappointment for the Jets. He's had no answers. He hasn't had a lot of help, obviously. It's a talent-poor defense. They traded their 2 best defensive players last month. That didn't help matters. But too often the Jets just seem completely overwhelmed and not having any counterattacks to their defense. And that was on shining display against the Jaguars, who just absolutely torched them in every which way, especially in the passing game. So Aaron Glenn gets ahead of it and decides to cut bait on the DC. And here he was talking about that decision on Monday.
I just thought that, from last week going to this week, that the improvement wasn't there. And I thought it was time to make a change, And again, I'm going to make the decision that that's best for this organization at all times. And it's my job to make sure I continue to evaluate everything that's going on. And I told you guys that. And that's my job as the head coach. And I just thought this was the time for me to make that decision.
Glenn named defensive backs coach and passing game coordinator Chris Harris the interim coordinator. Harris will call the plays for the final 3 games of the season. So it was a bad hire, Wilks. It didn't work on any level. And I guess you give Glenn credit for seeing that, not being stubborn, because I think a lot of Jets fans were concerned that he would lean on, again, his Lions history where he was once an embattled defensive coordinator and Dan Campbell stuck with him which allowed him to find his footing. And the concern was that Glenn would try to kind of follow that model when it was clear, and it's been clear in multiple stops in Wilks' NFL career that maybe he's not the answer. So just another shakeup for the Jets and what's been a lost season for the 3-11 gangrene.
Well, and he said the improvement, I think he said, hasn't been there in that, particular part of the team. The improvement hasn't been anywhere. So this is the classic move of, you called it. He was definitely going to be fired after the season. So you do it now. Maybe it generates some sort of a spark, but it's basically picking a scapegoat out of a jar, and then it's like you run out of those. You run out of them.
But he was, in the case of the Jets, if you're not going to fire Glenn, which it doesn't sound like there's any way that happens, you're not going to fire Engstrand as Tanner Engstrand, the OC, which is Connor's mentioned, and I agreed with him. He's doing pretty well with what he's working with. I wouldn't mess with that. The special teams coach should win the special teams coach of the year. Is that an award? I don't know, but their special teams has been fabulous this year. The defense and the defensive coordinator was an obvious area where they need to improve, so they're going to try to do that. Remember, this team has only 2 takeaways in 14 games and 0 interceptions. On Sunday, the Jets tied the 2024 Niners. It's funny, it was last year's Niners team, for the longest streak in NFL history without a pick. So they will potentially make history this upcoming Sunday. And by the way, a little how the sausage gets made moment. Did you see what happened with Josina Anderson today?
Yes, I did.
Justin, can you fly? Josina, I think, got a little sloppy. Let's fly up the tweet that she had. Let me read this. League source on Jets HC. I'm going to read this first, Justin, and then we can point out some things. League source on Jets head coach Aaron Glenn firing Steve Wilks. When you give up 48 points that easy, shit happens. I hate that for Steve Wilks because he's a good dude. But between you and I, our linebacker play has gotten worse. You lose Quinnen Williams. You lose the element of an inside pass rush. You have an undrafted rookie QB in there. We weren't expecting him to be Joe Namath, but obviously there's a disconnect out there with areas on the football team from a preparation standpoint. At the end of the day, we didn't play well. It's not all on him, Wilks. He was the defensive coordinator for the 49ers in the Super Bowls a few years ago and a former head coach. You just hate this shit happens. Mark, what stands out to you as wrong with this? Let's go through it. What seems odd about this reporting from Josina? Let's start right here with the first 2 words, league source. Okay,
right.
So it's a league source, we're being told, and let's go on. As we move on here. Okay, how about between you and I? That feels like off the record conversation, not to be reported. Mm-hmm. Literally between you and I. Okay, we said league source, right? All right, let's see. What else do we have here? What jumps out? We weren't expecting him to be Joe Namath. Okay, it must be a team source then.
Right, it's not a floating guy out in Tennessee or Cincinnati.
We didn't play well in this as well. Once again, this looks like it's a Jet coach or someone with the Jets, and then there's a smoking gun here. We weren't expecting him to be Joe Namath, okay? And I believe Aaron Glenn said this summer that about Justin Fields. So it's actually a lifted quote and something. This was Aaron Glenn telling Josina Anderson all this shit, and Josina blew the whole thing up. And I guess you could say, yes, shit happens.
How does it get to this point? I guess you're just, I don't know, it's a complete insider disaster.
We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
You know what's funny? I heard from multiple people, and it wasn't just me. It was like, if you're someone who's inside the coverage of the league and know a bunch of people, including insiders, this is something where all the insiders are sending this and taking their shots and having fun with just sloppy reporting from Josina, who stood by it and claimed that it wasn't what people think it was, but very clearly that appeared to be Aaron Glenn as
what does
Josina's
she
source.
think that she thinks it was? I don't know.
What she was saying was that I think she had a follow-up tweet that was like, I have sources of all creeds and colors, I think she put in there, and she said that, it's not what you think it is, basically. But
you went down Creed and Color Avenue. That's okay.
All right. So anyway,
I hate this team.
The Jets trying to find
That's
their way. What else is new? Another coach on the hot seat, Pete Carroll, 2-12. It's been a disaster. There's no other way around it. The Raiders have been a disaster this year. Pete Carroll was brought in there to bring an adult to the room, an older adult, a grandpa to the room, but instead the team just looks rudderless, and no team in football has been worse the last 6 weeks than the Las Vegas Raiders, as you'll see in our upcoming power rankings. He's now getting the questions that coaches get when things get bad. Does he believe his job is in danger?
No, I don't feel like that at all. I really don't. I don't. I'm well beyond that. I don't feel like that.
Would you be willing to oversee a rebuild?
Well, it's looking like that's what's necessary. We need to keep working to get better, and that's in all areas, all aspects of what we're doing. I came in here thinking that we were going to turn it right away. I really did, and anticipated doing that, and that's not what's taking place, unfortunately.
I mean, this is a team with two great players on it, a pass rusher and a tight end. And I also thought in the summer that Pete Carroll and the combination of the new general manager and kind of a fresh start was going to help the Raiders to look different, and there would be a different energy, because Pete Carroll's been that guy as long as we've followed him as a coach. That has been the opposite. I don't doubt that he believes that a rebuild happens in more than 1 year, and that he's got what it takes to turn. I think he just has that inner belief, but there's no evidence this team has any identity or is going in the right way. And I think, depending on who's making the decision here, because that's always been the mystery. Was it Tom Brady? Is it the GM? Is it a combination? Is it the owner? The owner was, off in space, like
Spy Tech.
Yeah, is it spy tech? I think a change is it's one of these campaigns where I don't even really blame Pete Carroll. It doesn't feel like he's it was the wrong spot for him, I think. Yeah. And I think it's very clear that this is the wrong spot for him. And I think it's kind of ironic because his coaching career started in 1994 when he was the young pup, and he got caught up with a Jet team whose season flamed out in epic fashion, and an impatient old owner fired him with just 1 year into his coaching tenure, and then hired Rich Kotite. And things somehow got worse for the Jets in the mid-'90s. Now he's all the way on the other side 35 years later, and I feel like that's what's going to happen again. He's going to get 1 year here. I'm fully expecting Carroll to get run out at the end of the season, as the Raiders most likely end with the number 1 pick or number 2 pick. Where are they right now in Tankathon? Are they at number 1? I don't think they are. They might be 2 or 3. Yeah, 2.
2. Giants 1, Raiders 2, Titans 3.
Because you can't do the thing where you get if there's the right quarterback for them. You can't do the thing where then we have the year 1 where you've got Carroll on the way out and he's fired mid-season because they're not winning, and the quarterback's rookie year, like we've seen a couple of times now, is a complete disaster because of a firing. It's like, do you go get a offensive-minded coach to pair with that quarterback? I don't really believe outside of Seattle.
Yeah.
That's the model right now.
Yeah.
It's the offensive coach and the quarterback, not an offensive coordinator that's going to leave a year later if they do well, like a Liam Cohen and Dave Canales. So
yeah, I don't know if the bloom is off the rose with Cliff Kingsbury, because this year has gone a lot different than last year in Washington.
I think so.
But like a Kingsbury type going to the Raiders with a first-round pick quarterback, and Brady with his fingerprints all over the coach hiring and the structuring. Like I see all that coming. It just doesn't seem like Pete's going to be a part of it. But we'll find out in a couple of weeks, obviously. And by the way, let's tie those two stories together. I'd be totally down with Aaron Glenn hiring Pete Carroll as the defensive coordinator of the Jets. I think he still has the energy. I think he doesn't look tired. He doesn't look like a guy that's necessarily in over his head in 2025. I think he's just in a shitty position and not the right guy for that job. But if Dick LeBeau could lead defenses in Pittsburgh until he's 130, like Carroll might be able to do it until he's 200. I mean,
well, the issue is not that Pete Carroll has gone Joe Biden on us at all. Like he's
right.
That's not the issue.
The question is Pete Carroll, if he does wash out here after 1 year, would he be willing to take any other job besides head coach at this stage of his life? Or is he just going to say bye-bye? I guess we'll find out very soon. We're also eventually going to find out where Brandon Aiyuk is. This is kind of random, but we'll figure we'll get it in here so we don't miss the boat on the story. Brandon Aiyuk was removed from consideration to come back this season, and he was placed on the reserved left team list. So he signs a mega contract. Just a quick history lesson. He's a great young wide receiver for the Niners, has a highly contentious contract negotiation last summer. It looks like he's going to get traded multiple times, and then someone steps in within the structure of San Francisco and says, let's get this deal done. They give him I believe a 4-year, $120 million contract. He gets into camp late. He starts terribly. He's not playing at the same level as in the past. And right when he begins to find himself in October, he blows out his knee, but it's a really bad knee injury, pretty catastrophic. So he's rehabbing, but the rehab process has gone sideways, and he hasn't always been around, and that led to him not playing this year now and also being out of San Francisco's plans, it appears. Here's Kyle Shanahan on Monday about Aiyuk and where he's been.
Yeah, we haven't seen him forever. So, I mean, that's a decision they make. It's been pretty simple for me. I mean, I haven't seen him in a month. So, that's and same with our team. So hasn't been an issue with our team at all. We've kind of been plugging away and no big deal. Or it's just something we've been used to for a while. But I know it's new to you guys. So they just officially, I think, had to do that yesterday.
Wow, that's crazy. That was actually from the Sunday press conference. So he just went AWOL. I mean, this is you gotta say, Mark, for a team Niners who once again they're having the bounce back year a lot of us predicted. They've been a model of stability in the Shanahan era, and they once again have a team that's going to compete for the Super Bowl next month. They still mix in some rather large misfires here and there, and here was another one. What a horrible contract that was, and now they just got to figure out how to get out of it.
I mean, he was a good player before they gave him the contract.
Great player.
I think
he was one of the best young wide receivers in football before he got hurt.
I agree, and I think there's like things. It's mostly like things we don't know. Like, how dark is it for you to go through rehab like alone, and what are the rules around you being around the complex? We talked about like Patrick Mahomes. Like, could you in any world imagine Patrick Mahomes going AWOL during rehab? He's going to be there all the time with his teammates. I think it's part of a team thing too, where it's like, what are you saying to these people on your roster? I kind of think that the end game for him, just because this has bubbled up before, he's even verbalized this, I feel like in a podcast like last offseason, he wants to go play with his college friend, Jaden Daniels in Washington. I think that's where he would want to go ultimately. And this is sort of another dramatic Niners receiver / skill player playing a weird hardball game with the Niners.
Crazy. Anyway, that's what's happening in the news. Let's take a break, and then we'll dig in on the power rankings. Ho, ho, ho. Sessler, this is the last week I'm going to ask you, because then that's it. You're out of time. How's that Christmas shopping going?
You know what? I'm going to surprise you. I am all set, thanks to Aura Frames.
Oh, amazing. You did it, Mark. If you're, but for the rest of you, if you're still hunting for the right gift, I got you covered. Aura Frames. Mark just said it. It's the gift that makes it look like you planned it all along. Thoughtful, personal, and easy. Basically, the holiday trifecta.
Yeah, Dan, as I told you last week, I always struggle to find a truly personal gift. For the people closest to me, you want something meaningful. I'm not trying to waste my money.
I'm so proud of you, dude.
Thank you.
And that's why Aura Frames is perfect. Last year, I gave an Aura Frame to my parents. They loved it. I preloaded it with my old family photos, some vacation shots. My parents just celebrated their 50th. I had like 400 photos to choose from. Bang! They're living on the easy street because I just gave them a gift that they'll love forever. Now it sits in their living room, rotating through memories all day long. You can preload photos before it ships and keep adding new ones anytime from anywhere. Plus, every frame comes in a premium gift box with no price tag, so it's beautiful right out of the box. You can't wrap togetherness, but you can frame it.
For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code HEEDTHECALL at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code HEEDTHECALL.
All one word. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Mark, you did it, buddy.
Thank you.
I read this book 14 years ago when I was 26.
When you were a youngster.
I was a young puppy at that point. Bill Goldman, who wrote it, I read just about everything he had written, and he sent this book to my father, actually, because my father had become friendly with him through a book that Bill did on Broadway called The Season, which was about a year on Broadway. And he sent it to my dad. My dad said, you know, you're a big fan of Bill Goldman's. Why don't you read this book? And I read it, and I just flipped out. I mean, it was one of those experiences where somebody is writing just for you, where they're like in your mind and you're reading every page and it's like, boy, this person knows exactly how I think. He's writing how I would write something. And then 13 years later, now I've become a filmmaker, and I said, hey, don't they make movies out of books? Isn't that something they do?
That is the late, sadly, tragically, Rob Reiner talking about The Princess Bride. That is the book that Bill Goldman had written, and it got turned into one of the great. If you're of a certain age, The Princess Bride is one of those movies that just hits different. Carrie Elwes and Robin Wright and
Andre the Giant.
Just like one of the great kids movies, but a movie that everyone can love. And that was just one of many, many great films that Rob Reiner directed. He was also a famous television actor and did some acting in his own right that was excellent. And Fact Cessy, and this comes second week in a row, by the way. On the Monday Night Show, we're talking about a tragic death of a celebrity, which is crazy. But just this past weekend, it was Friday, actually. I was laying on the couch. I was not feeling great. I had just almost killed myself in my backyard, unplugging an extension cord. And I looked on Netflix and I saw The Wolf of Wall Street was on. Mm-hmm. And I turned it on, and I hadn't watched it in a while. It was the 2013 Scorsese movie about Jordan Belfort, the crooked stockbroker, Leo DiCaprio. And it is a highly entertaining movie. It still is. It's a filthy, dirty, ugly movie also, and the characters are deeply unlikable. And it made me also think of how Scorsese was one of my favorite directors ever, like his mafia films, how it actually had a kind of a direct parallel to this world, where all these crooked, money-hungry assholes in this movie look at the working man as the stiff and as the schnook, and as something you would never want to be. And it's about like, so being a thief and a crook is what you should aspire to be, because it's all about money. But the one redeemable character in that movie, the one guy other than DiCaprio's first wife and Belfort's wife in the movie, is Rob Reiner, who plays the father of the DiCaprio character, and he's so warm and likable in the movie. And when I saw the movie, I was like, I forgot that Rob Reiner's in this, and he's so good, and he's the only character with warmth, and that was like kind of what he brought to every project and every interview, like you just heard there. So just like a tragic end to his life and the life of his wife. Just a terrible story. But I want to give a shout out to Rob Reiner, one of those guys that helped define just childhoods, and also just was a great artist all the way around. Just very sad.
When I moved to back to America when I was very young, one of the great benefits for me, you went from in England having like 3 television stations, and 2 of them were essentially like Parliament and news, and the third had like a couple things that I could grab onto. But then you come back to America and you got like 11 stations back then. I mean, this is pre-cable, right? But like you'd watch anything, and your parents would let you watch anything back then. And I'd watched probably like 100 episodes of All in the Family, like Archie Bunker's place, and he's Meathead.
Yep.
It's the first real acting role that he had. And something about him made me laugh as much as anyone ever on television back then. And there is something, he could play any type of role, but there is something about Rob Reiner that had this sort of gentle, welcoming Big Bear sweetness to him in all of his roles. And like, to be fair, I think that like when people die, everyone comes out to say how great they are. And like some of it feels, everyone's great, cool. But like in this case, people coming out to talk about Rob Reiner, the stuff that I've read, I mean, it's coming from deep within them. It's like he started the careers of like 50 actors that we love. And no one knew that. It's all these like, no one knows he did this, but he did this for me. And like, he gave me he did Stand By Me, which I kind of forgot that he did Stand By Me. I mean, he's not in it. He directed it, but, and like, just to say one last thing, like that father role in Wolf of Wall Street, like, I think he extended that same care to his own child. I really do. He tried. He tried for many years. He made a film with him.
He tried. Yes, he did. And the son is at the center of the criminal investigation. And allegedly he was behind the murder of the parents, dealing with a lot of demons, addiction, and mental illness. Just a terrible, terrible story. But yeah, you look, not to go all rewatchables, but his run, starting with This Is Spinal Tap, which is, if you're a fan of comedy, is one of the great kind of satires of the rock and roll documentary genre ever released. But This Is Spinal Tap in 1984, then Stand By Me in 1986, The Princess Bride in 1987, When Harry Met Sally in 1989, maybe the standard of all rom-coms.
That's where he met his wife, too. She was the photographer on set.
Absolutely, yes. And then Misery in 1990, Kathy Bates, our own Kathy Bates, in her most famous role. And that was a brilliant movie with Jimmy Caan. And then A Few Good Men in 92. That is one of the great runs of any director in terms of both, not just commercial success, but critical success. Those are great, great, great movies. Anyway, just wanted to mention that because that was sad. And it was, a sad few days in general. You had the tragedies at Brown University, what happened in Sydney, that terrible situation. But the Rob Reiner, like with John Lennon, what we talked about last week, when there's certain celebrities where it just resonates differently.
Yeah.
And also why it was so disgusting what our president mentioned on his
unbelievable. I don't know what
social media, like just hideous and so hateful, and exactly what we don't need in the world. Him bringing that, the leader of the country, ostensibly. But anyway, shut out the evil and welcome in the good, and that's what Rob Reiner tried to do. So Rob Reiner, rest in peace. All right, let's turn the page. Let's do some power rankings. How about that?
That's a good thing to do.
Transition.
Got power!
Farbuck. With great power.
Where is Farbuck?
Comes great responsibility.
Mega powers, yeah!
Then when you get the money, you get the power.
Category orange.
That's where hopes Farbuck stays in the background.
Power.
Wow, you're playing with power.
According to Dan Hanzus power ranking.
Thank you, Paul Rudd, the official power rankings of record. Justin and I will have a private conversation about whether we need to edit out Mark's crisis of self-doubt about his own power rankings early in today's episode. We don't like to project any weakness, only strength with the power rankings as we roll into a pivotal week 16.
That's how we're framing that 40 minutes later.
It's a private conversation between Justin and I about whether we need to make a deep edit into the top of the program.
I'll have a private conversation on whether or not I show up to the next episode of the show. So
let's dig into tier one. And by the way, we're going to name the tiers as we get into the end of the season. We're bringing back the names, and these are the contenders, the top 8 teams. I'm going to go this far. How about this? I'm going to go this far. The 2 Super Bowl teams are right here. Okay. And we'll see if I'm right or not in about 2 months, but that's what I think. Number 1, straight across the board, it's a Connect 4. It is the Los Angeles Rams who continue to do the devil's business to the rest of our league. The Seattle Seahawks, they are at number 2 still, but me and Ceci both, I believe, dropped them 1 spot from last week. It's just enough, just a tiny little cracks, nothing to be concerned about. And these are the smallest, most minute cracks because this is a great team, Mark. But when you look at some of these teams around them, maybe they have, if you want to, pick some nits.
It has to do with another team around them too. In my book, that's how small the fissures are in my concern for the Seahawks. A little bit of quarterback concern, but beyond that.
Number 3 is the Buffalo Bills. Welcome to the Zuzzers reality. I had them high in this exercise last week before the Patriots game. I move them up 1 spot to 2. Mark, you moved them up to 2.
Yep.
Connor has them at 3. Justin at 4. So they are up to number 3 in our rankings, 1 spot up. The Broncos continue almost begrudgingly on Heed the Call to march up these power rankings. Dan, Mark, and Connor all have them at number 4. Justin has them in the top 3. They're up 2 spots. And I get it. If you're a Broncos fan, I get why you're a little bit frustrated because they've won 11 in a row. They're the top seed in the AFC. They're fully clear by a game now of the Patriots. They just whipped the Packers in the second half of that game, and yet we still have them outside the top 3. I get it. Why not? I don't know. I don't know why that is the way it is.
Are they better than those 3 teams above them? I don't believe that. That's why I have them at 4.
I think a Broncos fan, but of course they're going to be impartial, but they have a good case why they should be in the top 3. That's all I'm saying. They've played awesome football this year, all year, especially in closeout scenarios, and that's what it's all about. Number 5, another thing that the Zuzzer was ahead of. I think I was the only one that had them in tier 1 last week. The Houston Texans are at number 5. I had them at 5. Ceci and Connor had them at 7. Justin at 6. So they're in the top 5. It up 6 spots. Is the biggest jump, Justin, this week?
Is it? Wow, what do you
I like
know?
how Justin still doesn't know that I ask him this question every single Monday. Like you would think this would be part of his checklist, but
it is the biggest jump. But then I had some drama. We'll have to go look it up. It's like a little build up, some tension, some drama, some.
Yes, that's what you've created.
Thank you, Justin. Yes, you're a master of suspense. The Patriots.
Suspense. That's the word.
The Patriots drop 1 spot after their collapse against the Bills. Zuzzer had him at 8 last week. I kept him at 8 because I had him perfectly pegged. Mark,
why is this exercise? If one of us had a team perfectly pegged last week, would you recall that, or are you just simply?
No, I mean, let's just be honest.
W?
This contenders tier is a victory lap for Tugboat because I kind of had the board laid out correctly in almost every way. I just that's it, and you can get upset about that, but I'm not upset. But
you have used 4 different nicknames at this point, so I'm just waiting to see when we get to the 5th. So
Pat's at 6, down 1 spot.
Hey, Mark, if you want to victory lap something that you pegged perfectly last week in this week's power rankings, just mention it.
Yeah, Mark, how about
say I pegged that
Mark,
perfectly
how about a little
last week.
sense of theater for yourself?
Here we
that
go.
Would help.
The two of you, like I don't recall what I did last week, so I have to go check that out.
Well, that would require a little bit of research and like, what am I going to add to the power ranking segment? Let's work on that, Sestog.
I think by week 16 I'll have that unlock.
The number 7 team is the San Francisco 49ers, who stay at number 7. Connor, interestingly, has them all the way down at number 10. I'm not sure where he had them the week before, but that is notable. The number 8 team is the Chicago Bears, who got another win.
9. He had him at 9 the week before.
So he dropped them a spot. Interesting. We'll talk about that on Thursday. The Chicago Bears are up 1 spot, and they are in the first tier after another victory. So there you go on that. Mark, you had him at 6. I have him at 10. So we're a little bit different there. You must really love the Bears to have him in the top 6 of football.
Keep winning, and I kind of want to see it before some of this happens a little bit. But also, I don't think they get into the top 8 if I don't do what I did here. So if you live in Chicago or you root for this team, I had you here. I had you. I supported you. I lifted you up.
Very well said. The tier 2 rankings, they are called the Pretenders. Wow, that's harsh, isn't it?
It's harsh.
It is harsh and maybe not all the way accurate. And maybe we revisit the name of this tier, but let's go through the tier. Maybe it's mostly correct because at number 9 is the Packers. I'm afraid to ask Justin because he'll pretend he's building the suspense. But Justin, is this the biggest drop for a team? 6 spots in week 16.
It is tied for the biggest drop.
For the biggest drop, the Packers. And
you should be able to guess who the other team is based on what happened to their quarterback.
Yes, it would be.
Yes, of course. Of course. The Kansas City Chiefs. Stay tuned to see how far they fell. So the Packers drop to number 9 after that. It wasn't just the loss, obviously. It was the loss of Micah Parsons, for me anyway. And I imagine that's where you come down on that too, Mark.
I do. I mean, we both had them you had them at 7, I had them at 8 still, but you've got to project major losses like that into this in my world. And they tumble for that reason. Absolutely. Like, you look at them differently. Who are they?
I think it's kind of like they need to now show us to get back into tier 1. This is why I think it's a perfect spot for them to jump back into the true contender category. We need to see how they bounce back from that loss. We need to see how they bounce back and living in a world where Micah Parsons is again no longer on the field with the Packers, which is what the Packers were last year and when they weren't good enough. Number 10. Now, this is where I think it's maybe fair to question the pretenders as the name of the category. The Jaguars. What do the Jaguars got to do to get our love? Well, they stay in the top 10, but they don't move. And maybe that's partly because they shellacked a very bad Jets team in what appears to be full tank mode. But they stay at 10. The Chargers keep winning. They win ugly, but that's how they like it. Up 1 spot to number 11. The Philadelphia Eagles, they perform acts of savagery upon the woebegone Las Vegas Raiders in a shutout win. But wisely, we don't get too caught up in it. They're up
Connor
1 spot. Nope. Where did Connor have? Connor's got him at number 5 this week. Where did Connor have him last week, Justin?
Number 13. So go explain that one.
That could get Farbuck involved.
That's pretty startling.
How can you
to beat the Raiders? Or what changed? I guess
we make a note of that? We have to talk to Connor about that. And that's, he represents all of us here with the power rankings. How could you beat the Raiders, the most embarrassing team in the league, and have that type of jump? I guess they're fixed in Connor's eyes. We'll let him explain.
Yeah.
The perfect Twilight Zone team. So perfect that 3 of us agreed, actually, without talking to each other. And the 4th, Justin had him at number 12, is the Detroit Lions, down 5 spots after they just cannot find a way to get the stops that are necessary. And when you can't trust your defense to ever get the job done, at a certain point, you just got to say this team's not good enough. As the Rams went up and down the field in the last 3 quarters, especially in that win at SoFi for Los Angeles. So we've reached the point where the Lions, we're not really sure what they are anymore, Mark. So we just stick them at 13 and we move forward.
They totally fit. It's they are at fault for being at 13. They shouldn't be. They are. They fit the definition.
Let me just take a real quick look at the Lions' upcoming schedule.
By the way, on teams 11 through 16, you and I, Dan, have the exact same rankings for each of them.
Whoa.
That's pretty wild.
Synergy,
I don't know if that's happened before to such an extent.
You're doing a great job. That's the way I see it.
That's what I was going for there.
Tremendous work. You are really locked in now.
I wonder if this is like an echo chamber, because I am in the exact same boat except flip Eagles Lions. Like, we are all
right.
11, 13, 14,
and you know
15,
what?
The same.
I think you're going to see a lot of similarities maybe for the rest of these, because this was the week where I got to right around that number 13 spot, and we're putting together our final tallies as Pittsburgh and Miami are playing, and it's like, geez, that game was in doubt. You didn't know where to put those 2 teams yet, but once you get to 13, there's a bit of a fall off a cliff in terms of teams you can credibly look at as contenders. So you get the league right now is 13 teams that matter, and arguably do the math, 13, 17 gets you to 13, but then plus 2, so there's 32 teams, 19 teams that don't.
It's a morass, maybe 14 teams, but around it gets ugly quick.
All right.
I think the cutoff for me is after 15. And I feel like tier 2 should have ended after 15, but that's not how math works.
It's just not how math works. The Lions' remaining schedule is home Steelers, at Minnesota, at Chicago. That could be another candidate for the Sunday night closer, depending on how things shake out. But the Lions have now lost enough games at 8-6 where Week 18 could be meaningless. They've put themselves behind the 8 ball now, both in their division and in the wild card race, because they're just not winning the big games. They keep on flopping. I mean, they lose at LA, They lose home against the Packers. They lose at Philadelphia. They lost at Kansas City. They lost at Green Bay to start the season. They've failed almost every test this season that would render them a contender. So anyway, we move forward. The Steelers win over the Dolphins. They're up 2 spots to 14. That makes sense. The Ravens shut out the Bengals and they move up 4 spots to number 15. That makes sense. The Panthers, here's where it gets a little weird. The Panthers have a terrible, terrible loss in New Orleans. They actually move up 1 spot, but don't read into that as us believing in the Panthers. It gets really grim, tier 3 and below. I think that's fair to say, right, Justin?
What's crazy is our average ranking amongst the 4 of us for the Panthers was 18. Like, look at this board. None of us have them higher than 17, yet they come in with the 16th highest average ranking, because from here to like 28, it's a wild mismatch of all these teams are the same amount of terrible, and we're not exactly sure.
Right. The only thing we all know collectively is that the rest of the teams are pretty much bad, and then it just becomes some type of a debate over how bad. Let's go to tier 3, which we call, wait for it, drum roll please, the flabby midsection. That's accurate. The Cowboys, and that's fitting. The Cowboys flunk. Blow their season on Sunday night against the Vikings. So you don't get to be in tier 2 anymore. You are the flabby midsection. You lead it off down 3 spots to 17. It was the Vikings with a big jump up 5 spots, because guess what? If you get competent quarterback play in Minnesota, there's things to like about the team. That's what we thought. That's why I banged the over on them before the season started. I didn't think they would be incompetent at quarterback. They were until the last 2 weeks, and now they're winning again. Anyway, they are up 5 spots to 18. The Bucs, again, deeply disappointing. A team that is in the tank right now, but the teams around them are even worse. So they only dropped 1 spot despite this losing skid they've been on. The Colts fight hard with the old man quarterback. So they're kind of, Mark, they're a team I guess some people are just rooting for now because Rivers is involved. They're up 2 spots off that Seattle loss at number 20.
It was a valiant effort from the quarterback, from the team. I wish it had gone a different way story-wise. They fit at number 20. Connor and I had them in the teens. I'm fine with. I mean, I think, like you said, anything
16.
After 13.
Connor's got that seems way too high to have him at 16. This team is in free fall with a 44-year-old quarterback who can't throw it more than 8 yards. I know they were a fun story on Sunday, but we got to also project what happens next.
Well, but 16 is in this world putting them above the Bucs, Vikings, and Cowboys, which is okay. It's not a huge stretch, but sure.
I can't. I mean, they have, with all due respect, the worst quarterback in the league. Like, can we be real about it? Can we be real about it? Like, what's actually happening here versus the Disney movie? I mean, all right, we'll stick a pin in that. We have time to talk about that on Thursday. They're the Chiefs, down 6 spots. They now have Gardner Minshew at quarterback. They are irrelevant. They're right in the middle of the flabby midsection of the league, and they could go even lower, down 6 spots to 21. The Saints are up 2 spots after that win over the Panthers. And I could even argue maybe the Saints deserve a little bit more love than that. But
they have been the one terrible early season team that has kind of bit by bit garnered our respect.
Yeah, and Justin has them up at 17 actually, which seems
I also said
crazy,
before. It's a little high, but I was also like, everyone else lost, so I'm rewarding the Saints for winning a game. Mm-hmm. 2 in a row against the 2 teams that are vying for their division to win their division. So they've
swept Carolina.
And I remember saying before the season, you guys, that the Saints might be bad, but they're not as bad as everyone thinks, and they're going to mess up some teams' playoff hopes late in the season, and I just want to take a mini victory lap for saying that in the preseason.
I'd like to see you produce the tapes before we... I'm not saying I don't trust you. I'm just saying I think you might be lying. All right, let's say the Dolphins fall 3 spots after flunking their test of Tanaga at Accra Shore Stadium. The Falcons suck, but they're up 1 spot after their Thursday night win. Congratulations, you avoided the dreaded Tier 4, also known as the shit pit. Justin, I have to take issue with you here, Justin. I specifically gave you the syntax for this. Shit pit should be hyphenated, and I also requested a trademark symbol next to shit pit. Right. And that was something I specifically put into the text to you. And I just want to know why that was deemed to be disregarded.
How do you feel about that, Justin?
Yeah, I feel like I failed you and I let down the entire hedonist community, but I will, the excuse that I'll give is that I just remembered while I was building these boards, oh yeah, we're going back to the tiers this week, and then off memory put them into the, I didn't go back and reference.
I mean, that's not, you're acting like this is a good excuse for why you didn't. So you're saying you almost completely forgot entirely the conversation we had. We gotta start writing some stuff down. That's what we got to do.
Yeah. No, there's
a lot flowing through that pen into your lungs, you know, like, and it's going up to the brain.
Yeah. Well, that's just nicotine, but you know.
Side note, Dan.
4 a.m.
We've got lawyers. We could literally go through the process, or have them go through the process.
Oh, we are
of trademarking the shit pit. So
we are, and we're deep in negotiations.
That'll have a hyphen.
Yeah. So we're hyphenating shit pit. And we're getting that trademark symbol for Week 17. The Bengals down 4 spots to 25. The Commanders up 2 spots off a win over the Giants to 26. The Cardinals down 1 spot to 27. The Giants up 1 spot to 28. The Jets down 2 spots to 29. The Titans stay at 30. The Browns stay at 31. The Raiders, thank God for the Raiders, because if not for the Raiders, our 3 favorite teams would be the 3 final teams in this shit pit. So the Raiders on a Connect 4 do serve one very important purpose, Marc Sessler.
They do. I think we've done a good, well, we haven't seen Farbuck in a while. I feel like as a group, we've, outside of a couple wild card scenarios, done a pretty solid job here.
Always good.
Yeah.
Always good to miss the rage of Farbuck. All right. Good stuff. We'll be back on Wednesday with Pete Sweeney, a little flashpoint focus on the future of the Chiefs, and then everything else that's happened in the league, and also the Thursday night preview. I believe it's the last Thursday night game of the season.
Well, not technically, because the Christmas night game is on
But in the
Prime.
rigmarole of it being this like standalone thing, yes.
Yeah, it's the last standalone, but it is on Prime on Thursday night, so.
There you go. So 2 more Thursday night games. This is the last one in a non-holiday setting. Nailed it. So make sure you're there Wednesday. Thanks to everybody for their support. And a reminder, the 30K challenge, we just crossed 29,000. So we are now 1,000 YouTube subscribers away from Connor Orr sharing the story of his clash with Broncos head coach Sean Payton, his potentially violent, certainly disagreeable confrontation with the future Hall of Fame head coach, Mark. So we're that close. So what do the people have to do?
You've got to smash the like button, the subscribe button, double smash.
Smash it.
Get your friends to smash, your lovers, your parents.
Everybody smash.
Smash it.
Smash. Feel the love. And Justin did a little digging on the metrics. We popped the hood on our own show. There's still, I think, 20% of our regular viewership that watch all our shows but aren't subscribed. Yeah. So what are you doing? Just help us out.
Malcontents.
Yeah, don't be a malcontent.
Literally 20.0 on the dot %. I'll put the screen.
That's what I said, 20%.
I know, but it's like, it's not, it's about 20. No, it's literally 20.0%. It's kind of crazy, actually.
So I know
that is what 20% is, though.
I know. I just didn't want people to think you were rounding or estimate. Like, I want people to understand that you literally are. That is
in this C block of the program, when we're talking power rankings, all my numbers are right on the money.
Dan doesn't round.
Fair.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We love you. Till Wednesday, do what you must. Heed the call.